Well, welcome back. And through the wonders of technology, and boy, oh boy, how we have adapted to technology, particularly when it comes to talking to people very quickly over the last couple of months. We have Wayne McNee of the Livestock Improvement Corporation, or LIC, coming to us down the virtual line. Hey, look, Wayne, LIC are a major player in the agri industry. You've got relationships with farmers all the way across New Zealand. What are the key technology trends that you see are transforming the industry?
Well, I just saw the end of that last clip, and data, which was being talked about there, is one of the key trends, undoubtedly. Data and information for farmers, and data and information for us as a company too. We are increasingly using data to inform the decisions we make to help farmers make decisions real time on farm, but also in our significant breeding programs and the other things that we focus on.
What are the tech trends, in some ways other than data, that you think are having the greatest impact on how you service farmers?
Well, it is how you get the information to farmers to help them make decisions. So we provide software to farmers for them to enter information. We're increasingly working with other partners to bring that information together through things like Aggregate and also other products that we offer farmers. And also taking that and developing new technologies farmers can really make use of. So things like the genomics research that we're doing, helping farmers with sustainability. It really is changing at a rapid pace at the moment.
Great. So as a business, all of these different ways you're looking to support the sector, really a supporting role as well, and then driving a lot of that technology through and essentially, I guess, introducing a lot of farmers to it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about being a farmer-owned cooperative is that we have touch points with about 10,000 dairy farmers, so pretty much all dairy farmers in New Zealand. And we have lots of different ways of helping them understand what's available to them. We have people driving up driveways. We have, technologies like this. We have direct contact through a range of different ways of talking to farmers. So we can introduce them to new tech. We can show them, how it works, how they can benefit from it. We've been doing a lot of training, actually, using Zoom and other technologies over the past few months, so farmers can really understand how to get the best benefit from the new tech that's available to them. And also, new things like the genomics research, but also new technologies to help farmers identify the best animals in their herd. So it really is a time of rapid change. And in fact, we've actually, I think, benefited in some ways from the last few months when farmers have had time to go on and look at and train on some of these things that they might not have done so in the past. It's really been an interesting period of time.
It certainly has been an interesting time, and as we've seen just that huge uptake in a lot of technologies just over the last couple of months from the fact that people simply have to. I'm obsessed with data. I love data. I love data visualization. I love the sort of the trends that can be picked up in data, and the massive data sets that are now available. What are the kind of insights that you can derive from the data that you're getting now, and particularly maybe insights that you hadn't expected?
So we've been a data company for about 100 years now, and obviously the technology is enabling us to do more and more and more with that data. So collecting it, analysing it, and actually the new technology we've been working with AWS on more recently, the speed, the compute power that's available to us now, bring in machine learning, bring in data insights that we never could have imagined were possible. And just some examples of that. I mean, we do a lot of processing of genomic data for genomics. Huge scale compute power required for that. And just over the past year, we've been able to do that 3 times faster than we could before, and more data going into that. And ultimately, that means that farmers end up with better cows to milk, cows that are more sustainable, cows that produce more milk. So, and it's happening really fast now. So we've got teams of scientists and people working on data, both ourselves, but also with AWS on what more we can do with that.
For someone who is watching this and might not know a lot about it, what's the kind of the breadth of that data? What kind of data are you looking at? It's probably more than just a breeding index or a production index or the height of a cow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's probably people going, what is this data?
Well, I mean, there's a whole range of factors that are taken into account when you're thinking about how to breed the best animal. And we collect, obviously, the milk production information is key, but also the weight of an animal, how long it lives for, how often it gets pregnant, and its life in the herd is important. And then there's a range of other factors like, it is actually important what the shape of its udder is, how easy it is to milk, milking speed. There's a whole huge range of things that we are collecting. And we collect that in a variety of different ways. So some of that is automatically collected from herd testing services and the like. Some of it's entered by farmers. Increasingly, more and more of that is automated. And, we process about 11 million milk samples each year. And from that, we're also now starting to get more and more animal health information, which is really becoming important for thinking about, animal welfare, which is becoming more and more important for consumers as well.
Absolutely. Look, I've collected a lot of those milk tests over the many years that I was at home on the farm. Hey, it's some of that incidental data as well. We were talking with some people here the other day around fenceless farming, and they were talking that some of their data had picked up the relationships, the social structure within herds, literally cow friends. Once you start to get that sort of thing in, can you perhaps then end up looking at how a social structure works, how that impacts the health of certain cows, and extrapolate stuff out from something like that?
Maybe. I mean, that's really new data, that sort of data that you're talking about there. What we are getting now is increasingly off the collar technologies that are already widely in use. There's a lot more information about the health of an animal, its general well-being, and that can help inform us when we're thinking about the type of cow that we want to breed for farmers for the future. So we're still learning about how to use that kind of data. You see it already in a dairy shed. There's always the cow that wants to be first in the shed. They have their hierarchies within the herd that the farmer will already know. And then there's the question of, well, how important is that when it comes to thinking about breeding the next generation of cows, which is what we as a company are all about. We inseminate about 80% of New Zealand's dairy cows each year as a cooperative. So we are really focused on the future of dairy farming for our shareholders.
Indeed, it would be fascinating once we start to look at the psychological profile of, matriarchs and whatnot within herds. Hey, look, tell me about Minder. That's the farm and herd management platform.
Yeah, so about over 90% of New Zealand dairy farmers use Minder. It is a herd management platform. We've been investing a huge amount of money in taking it from what was a traditional desktop-based system into now a full-time, always live web-based, but also app-based product. And farmers use it to enter all of the information that they have about their cows and all the automated information I talked about before, so diagnostic information, pregnancy information, all of that gets entered into Minder either automatically or by individual farmers. And it's a very powerful tool, so farmers can use it to really understand the value they're getting from their herd, and make real-time decisions around, which cows they want to breed from, how they want to breed from them, which ones they want to keep, which ones they don't want to keep. So it's a product we are investing a huge amount of money in, and the other benefit of that is we get a lot of information ourselves to work on ourselves, but also with other partners like milk processors, fertiliser companies and the like. So it's really becoming a partnership between the big companies now to see how we can help farmers, especially with the challenges they're facing around sustainability, environmental challenges, methane and everything else that they're challenged by now.
Tell me about the animal evaluation capability.
So all that data we were talking about before is brought together using some pretty sophisticated tools now we've mapped the full genome of the dairy cow, and we identify the parts of that are important for farmers in New Zealand. And it's different in New Zealand to what it would be in the US or Europe or China. I mean, our cows are outside, free grazing, free range all the time. And the things farmers need and the cow we need is different. So we've done a lot of investment with government into understanding what we need to be having for a New Zealand dairy farmer. And then it's part of then using all that genomic information to predict the future value of cows and bulls. So we use that compute power I talked about before and all that genomic information to try and predict the best bulls so we can get the best cows of the future. And that technology is just going at a great pace at the moment, and the scale of it is really quite mind-boggling. And certainly beyond my capability to do any of that work, but that's why we have a bunch of scientists doing it. It really, I reckon it's the most exciting time for breeding in New Zealand probably since we started traditional sire proving, 50 odd years ago.
When we look at that, it sounds fascinating. Will you be able to break it down to, as we have regional variations for crops and various other things, to go, look, this particular region, these look to be the best kind of cows? Will you then even be able to pull in perhaps planning around climate change and climate shifts? You look at temperature variations and essentially but decide what is the perfect cow for this region in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years.
Yeah, and we are trying to do some of that work at the moment. So certainly, as we look at the impact of climate change, it does seem the environment in New Zealand is changing. So we've got a breeding program at the moment looking at using some technology we developed previously called a slick gene. So these are cows that will be more productive in a hotter environment. And originally we were starting to think about that for, Middle Africa or Asia or Central America, but maybe actually now for Northland, given how the temperatures are changing here. And we're thinking also, clearly a New Zealand cow which is eating grass is different to cows that are fed high input in China or the US. But now starting to take that information to think very much, yes, what will we need? Thinking about lower methane emissions, less nitrate emissions, and really healthy animals that will do really well in a New Zealand environment in the future.
How much of that then goes overseas? Are you developing this here and then you're able to extrapolate through overseas data? Have you got other companies? Is it your intellectual property, or are you using some stuff of yours and then bringing in, things from overseas?
So the work we are doing for New Zealand dairy farmers is very much focused on grazing systems, and we are the world leaders in grazing systems genetics, both with our genomic and traditional sire proving schemes genetics. So we do export those genetics into South America, into UK, into Ireland, into Australia, and into the US, where there are countries where there are areas where they are particularly focused on grazing. We don't develop genetics for the really high input housed systems, but we're the world leader in those grazing genetics. And really we've developed this ourselves together with Dairy NZ and to some extent with CRV, our main competitor in New Zealand, working on the type of genetics that we need for New Zealand conditions.
And look, partnerships are really crucial. You've been working with AWS, Amazon Web Services, to deliver that kind of a step change in data intensification capacity. What have they brought to the party?
Well, the main thing that they bring to the party is just that incredible ability to scale the compute power. We can't afford to have the scale of computing that AWS has sitting in our offices in Newstead or even in Auckland with universities, which we've been using in the past. We really need to be able to ramp up, very large amounts of compute power for short periods of time and then ramp it down again. And that's what we can do with AWS. It's not so much the storage capability, which is important as well, because we store a huge amount of data, but it's more that ability to scale up and scale back without having to have all those systems sitting there idle most of the time. Because in the season, we do a evaluation run, like I was talking about before, every couple of weeks. But for the rest of the year, it would sit there relatively quiet. So, as I say, it's 3 or 4 times faster now than it was, even for us a year or two ago. And the speed of that's just accelerating. And as we bring more data in, we were just talking actually with my board this week around, we've traditionally had to shut down our software minder for about 18 hours every couple of weeks to do those runs, and we're moving to a situation where we won't need to do that because the compute power is just so significant.
It is indeed. Hey, so I was going to say, what's possible now that was very difficult a little while ago, or indeed impossible?
So the machine learning aspects are the kind of the new frontier which we're working on now, and learning from AWS and others how to benefit from those. So we took a team up to Seattle last October when you could go to Seattle. And we had our scientists meet with some of the people from AWS, but also some of their partners working in human genetics to see, okay, how can we apply what they've learned in human genetics across into bovine genetics? and some of the machine learning capability that they're using to just speed up and be smarter with the work we're doing. And also then taking it and applying it to other things like pasture measurements. So we've got a product called Space, which measures pasture from satellite, and that uses machine learning algorithms as well to understand the impact of climate on grass growth, and it just slowly gets better and better. And look, I still think we are just at the beginning of this capability from our perspective, and we're hiring more data scientists ourselves, and then leveraging the capability of Amazon, which they are huge internationally and work with a lot of other partners, and so we can learn a lot from them.
Marvin, look, I'm fascinated with this space thing. Talk people through that. How does that work?
So this is another technology which was impossible until a couple of years ago, and just happened. We had some people up in the US at a conference, and they saw satellite imagery being used to measure crops. So we went and talked to this company that was doing that work, and now they're Syngenta in the US, and they were taking images to measure crop growth and crop health. And we thought, well, we must be able to do that with pasture. So we worked with them, we partnered with them to develop algorithms for pasture growth. We went in and improved those in a New Zealand context. And now we can deliver to farmers every time there's a clear pass of a satellite from Planet Labs, our partner who's doing that. And we can use that to give them an image and calculate the dry matter in each paddock on the farm. So they can then decide where to put the cows next. And that technology, and we are the land of the long white cloud, so we have had some challenges with the cloud cover.
We do have a lot
New
of clouds,
Zealand.
yeah.
So the next step of that is using some really smart work that was developed in New Zealand to predict pasture growth based on soil temperature, application of fertilisers, etc.
So all of this as
and
well.
And so we can use that predictive modelling.
Oh, and all of this, obviously, all of that technical work flows into, I guess, work around sustainability and various other things as well.
It does. So, I mean, just on that, if farmers can use the pasture more more effectively, then they have to apply less fertiliser to get the same benefit. They can actually improve the production from their cows by measuring and managing pasture better. And it sounds easy to do, but the traditional method of walking around the farm with a plate meter, it could take a lot of time. And, with the best will in the world, farmers didn't always have that time. So they used to use often the iometer, as they say. You have a look out the window and see which paddock's got the most grass. This is just so much more effective, and it does mean a more sustainable farming model. And you combine that with the research into methane that we're doing now with partners here. I mean, I do think that we can, together with farmers, make sure we have a long-term sustainable dairy industry in New Zealand and continue to create the kind of value that we do now for New Zealand economy.
Absolutely. Hey, look, what's the roadmap ahead for data and AWS machine learning technologies, new products, new services? Give me a vision in a minute or so of what that future is going to look like.
Well, I think one of the things is, as was covered actually in your last panel, bringing the data together with partners, and we're doing a lot of work on that now to leverage the value of the different data sets that we have and help farmers make decisions more effectively from that, but also provide insight to others like governments, regulators on the future of dairy farming. So I think that's a key aspect. And also from a farmer perspective, just continuing to automate things so they don't have to enter everything all over the place. Making it easier for them to get information, and handheld devices. I mean, the use of iPhones and the like now is so universal that everybody on the farm has some kind of smartphone. So farmers can use that to look things up. They can enter data. That's just going to become more and more automated as well. So I think, we don't even know what we don't know yet. As I say, who would have thought 2 or 3 years ago we could have measured pasture from space, and now it's relatively easy.
It is. Hey, look, we're going to wrap up. This is an exciting field, but for you personally, what's something that you've seen in this where you've just gone, wow, that is fantastic. That is just one of those little things that's going to change everything. Or indeed something you thought, well, I never thought we'd ever realise that.
Well, I didn't think we'd do the pasture one from space, but when I went up to Seattle last year with Amazon, and I saw how the technology was being applied in human genetics, And the scientists who were with me were just blown away how the application of the same sort of technologies into animal genetics. So there's a lot of opportunity to improve animal health, animal welfare, and sustainability. Those are the things that really are the exciting opportunity for us. New Zealand has got a great dairy industry. We provide great products to customers around the world, and I think we've got a great story to tell.
We certainly have.
We just need to keep doing it.
And you have given people an insight into a lot of that story now. So thank you very much. Wayne is from LIC, of course.